Hi, everybody. This is Lowell, and we're talking about how to start a music school. And I encouraged uh, the those of you who are considering doing this to consider the why. And the previous video, we were talking about what is music, and I concluded by a statement that I've made for our school that music is not just sound; music is relationships. And so I wanted to discuss in this video my second reason for starting a music school, and that is the value of relationships, and that music fosters the value of relationships. In our Western world, there's a concept, and it's very ancient, and it stems back from into the Judeo-Christian heritage of our nation. But it's the value of consent, and when you have two people that agree in some manner, then it that they consent to agree on those things, and that concept stems from really the value of each individual. And so, if if um, if a person is made in the image of God, which is what the original concept and belief in, at the very foundation of the Judeo-Christian heritage is that man is made in God's image in Genesis 1. And so, if that's true, then we should honor each other. And so, the value of music being understood as relationships ties into this. And so when you make music with somebody else, it requires uh, listening. And possibly one of the greatest leadership skills that is not utilized well um, is listening. Most leaders do all the talking, and everybody else they think should be listening to them. And so that doesn't help. In terms of leading people, you want to gain their trust, you want to gain um, momentum with working with others. And so the way that that happens is through listening to others. I remember hearing people talk about Ronald Reagan having, every time they would have a conversation with him, uh, they just felt like 10 feet tall because he made people feel good about themselves. And the way that he did that is he would ask them questions about themselves. He would listen to them. And great leaders do that. Great leaders understand how to listen to the people that they're leading to gain consent in order to move forward in a direction. And so all of this ties together: leadership, music, consent, Judeo-Christian values, the value of the individual, servant leadership. All of these things tie together. And there's an illustration with music and with sound that is very fascinating and that ties into this perfectly. And if you take a sine wave, which if you were to look at sound three-dimensionally, or if you could actually see sound, it would look like these waves, actually like three-dimensional bubbles. And but on a two-dimensional graph, it looks like a wave, and so you have sine and cosine uh, in terms of the waves, all sorts of different kinds of waveforms. But let's just take a sine wave. And so in acoustics, if you have uh, a sine wave going along at a certain volume level, amplitude, and then you add another sine wave to it that is exactly in phase, going along in the same uh, up and down motion with it, where it's synchronized, then when you join those two waveforms together, it actually doubles the amplitude. In other words, when you join two waveforms that are identical, it makes it twice as loud. And conversely, if you take that same waveform and instead of it being in the sine direction, but it's actually cosine happening at the same time. And I don't know, some of you may have studied sound design, but if you get wiring backwards on a speaker system where you have the positive and the negative on one speaker, and then you have the negative and positive on the other speaker, then what happens is that the cone of the speaker on one side of the room is going in, while the cone on the other side of the room is going out. And so they're actually fighting against each other. And so they're sending conflicting uh, waveforms into the room, and that causes what's called phase cancellation. So if you have two waveforms that are identical, but then they are fighting against each other, they literally cancel each other out. Nevertheless, so this ties into leadership, and this ties into music, and it ties into relationships. And so in today's culture, we think of wow, especially as musicians, it'd be great, if I were king on the mountain, if I had, I owned the rights to all of my materials, if I, had all the recording agreements, if I'm in control of everything, I'm making all this money, it's all about me rising to the top of the social media and so forth, the big star. And yet that is really the opposite of what music is about. Music is about joining with others. Music is about relating with others, and it's about learning to listen to others. And what ends up happening when you actually do music correctly, what I mean correctly is in the fullness of its benefit, then you actually gain consent. You gain more and more consent with others. And so the place of agreement is the place of power. And so where you have more and more people that are agreeing, then you have greater power that's available. And power, that power is not meant for its own self or for the sake of the people that are, functioning in that power. It's for the sake of something greater. It's for the sake of the benefit of others. And so the power that we're looking for is the power of consent. It's the power of unity. It's the power of agreement. It's the power of bringing people together. And that's the value of music. And that's what should be happening in the training of our young students, and not only of music students, but of our culture. If we can train an entire generation the value of how to listen to each other, not just shoot out your own thoughts all the time, but the value of appreciating somebody else's ideas, the value of learning to get along with others. This is what making music really does when you're playing in ensembles, when you're learning to listen to yourself, listen to your stand partner, listen to your choir section, listen to your orchestral section, listen to your rhythm section. What you're doing is you're developing empathy. You're developing the ability to listen. You're developing the ability to gather consent with others. And that's a very powerful principle and a very powerful concept that a music school would really, really be greatly benefited by participating in that idea.